But there was just one more article I wanted to touch base on. Now, I did see a question earlier in the chat about community Zoom in locals. Let me just get this up and then we can talk about that. So, for community Zoom in locals, I actually do have a community Zoom opening in my locals community in 50 minutes at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. It will be our first community Zoom of 2022. So, in my locals, for my locals members, we are now doing community Zooms on Mondays and Wednesdays. The Zoom information is posted in locals. If you go to this image, it's posted right in the very first comment for the Zoom link. I will also be sending out the information before we get started. So you're going to have access to the link, and we're going to get started at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. On Wednesdays, we're going to get started at noon Eastern Time. And this is a local supporter exclusive. So if you want to become a supporter in my locals, head over to kb.locals.com/support. You can get access to all of our community Zooms, $5 a month. You can also do $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can make a one-time gift. All of that gets you access to the community Zooms. It gets you access to all of the features in locals. Best community on the internet. Best community ever. Most supportive. And I can't wait to talk to you guys in about 50 minutes. But I want to talk about one more thing first, because I just saw this article. I actually found this on Getter on Outkick. Warning to the woke. The sad state of Keith Olbermann is how it ends. I just thought that would be a fun one to read. Let's check it out. If you didn't bother to see why Keith Olbermann resurfaced in the news this week, let me fill you in. After Barstool Sports commemorated high schooler Tate Meyer, who gave his life to protect fellow students during a Michigan school shooting, Olbermann, via the quote tweet feature, blamed Dave Portnoy and Barstool's Trump fascism for the shooting. The kid died to stop a school shooter whose mother echoed the Trumpist fascism of Dave Portnoy and Barstool Sports, Olbermann tweeted. What evidence did Olbermann have? The shooter's mother once published a blog post in favor of Trump. This article is about a month old, just so you guys know, but I still think it's got some good points in it. We can discuss Olbermann as a man clearly in decline, and because of his long pattern of disgusting behavior, most have. But the sad state of Olbermann is not a singular matter. Instead, it should be a warning to the woke everywhere. Keith Olbermann is living proof of what years of lies, misery, hypocrisy, and baseless indignation do to a human. Living this way eventually takes a toll. It requires such effort to manufacture venomous hate over nothing. Plus, it never ends. You know, one of the reasons that I was a Democrat for so long was actually because of Keith Olbermann. It was because of his special comment on the 1-year anniversary of 9/11. Or maybe it was the 1 year, maybe it was the 5-year. I'm not sure. He did a special, it must have been a 5-year. I'm pretty sure it was a 5-year now that I'm thinking about it. He did a special comment on about 9/11 back in like 2006. Look up this special comment. You can find it on YouTube. I know because I watched it probably, 6 months ago, something like that. No, I watched it actually on the anniversary of 9/11. I remember that because I wanted to remind myself what I ever saw in Keith Olbermann. Keith Olbermann used to be normal. He made some really good points in that special comment he did back in 2006 that I actually think, shockingly enough, a lot of conservatives might agree with today. So I would encourage everyone to go back and watch it because it was good stuff. And then compare that to the lunacy that we see in Keith Olbermann now. Keith Olbermann has lost his damn mind. And I think is one of the better examples of when you feed on the woke every single day, when you're constantly looking for reasons to be pissed off, when you're constantly looking for racism in everything, when you're constantly looking for reasons to demonize your political opponents, you eventually will become very unhinged and detached from reality. And I think that that is exactly what we're seeing in Keith Olbermann. But it might not all be him. And this article makes a really good point that I want to make sure we address, but let's keep going. Front-facing members of the progressive movement are riding a never-ending treadmill. In Adam Carolla's book, I'm Your Emotional Support Animal, Carolla says the contentious nature of the campaign is the very purpose of wokeness. Think about the two words, progressive movement. They mean it's never going to stop. It starts by moving towards real problems. But when the people in the movement run out of real problems, they still need to keep progressing, keep moving, and that's where we're at now. In essence, progressive fighters never reach gratification. Take that however you will. So they start in a dark place and never escape. They are loyal social media foot soldiers who sacrifice their own personal lives for the sake of the cause. What's most troubling about this dynamic is that other Twitter users have been misled about the root cause. There's a misconception that career race baiters have brainwashed their followers. That's not entirely true. Instead, their followers have actually convinced them that they must continually uncover racism even where none exists, meaning they must plumb the depths that have no bottom. This is the part of the article that really caught my attention. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger so you guys can actually see it. Oh god, I'm making the wrong screen bigger. Hang on. That'll be probably a little bit better. So this is the part of the article that caught my attention. Did Keith Olbermann and people like him drive their audience to lunacy? Or did the audience drive them to lunacy? This is something I've thought a lot about because and quite frankly, I do understand it on some level because listen, man, my platform was built mostly on conservatives, let's just be honest. I was a conservative darling for about a month and a half in early 2020, and that's pretty much how my platform got built. A lot of conservatives still watch this channel, and I'm grateful for when they do. But one of the things that I've had continual trouble with is my conservative audience wants me to say one thing, but it might differ from what I actually want to say. And I've thought a lot about how much do I pander to this audience that, let's just be honest, there are a lot of grifters that leave the left and then they speak conservative talking points over and over and over again, and conservatives love that. This is why Candace Owens is famous. Conservatives love that. By the way, they love it on the left too. This is not just a conservative thing. If someone leaves the right and they go to the left, listen, who does MSNBC hire? Nicole Wallace was the communications director under W. The left loves right-leaning people who defect to them just as much as the right loves left-leaning people who defect to them. But at some point, at least for me, I wouldn't have been able to live with myself if all I did was pander to the talking points an audience wanted me to pander to. But I can absolutely understand the pressure to do that. I think that the Daily Wire does this specifically. I think they do this to the right. I think the Daily Wire, for the most part, I don't dislike everyone at the Daily Wire, and I do think they have some good reporters, but I think the commentators largely pander to what the audience wants. I think a lot of people on the right, whether they be Candace Owens or, other like MAGA people, they pander to what their audience wants. Matt Walsh, Brooks, oh god, you better fucking believe it. And you can become very successful doing that. But at some point, that's got to get into your head. When we look at the left, we can see Joy Reid. Holy hell. Joy Reid completely panders to what the audience wants, and she's gone insane. Rachel Maddow, I actually really like watching Rachel Maddow from just a presenting perspective. I think that not thinking about the content, but how she presents it, I think is actually pretty good. But she's lost her damn mind and she lies all the time. There's a difference between respecting someone for a presentation style and respecting what they have to say, right? We can look at Chris Hayes. Chris Hayes is so crazy. And like Keith Olbermann, like everyone that has ever been even in the vicinity of MSNBC, and let's not even talk about CNN and Don Lemon. Chris Cuomo, who just got fired for protecting his brother, Brian Stelter, who is like a human potato. All these people pander to their audience all day. Do they drive their audience insane, or does the audience demand that they use these crazy talking points? And in using the crazy talking points over and over and over again, it slowly drives the presenters insane. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me do a poll on YouTube. Who's responsible? The presenter or the audience? Who's responsible for insanity? Actually, I'm going to do the commentator. The commentator, not the presenter, the commentator. All right, let me know what you guys think, and then we'll read the rest of the article. Their followers and algorithms now encourage them to address whole demographics rather than focus on a few individuals. That's why Jamal, I don't know how to pronounce her name, a very gross individual, now focuses on white women as a species rather than Kelly Loeffler and Marjorie Taylor Greene individually as she once did. Olbermann knows that direction as well. Progressive tweeters with large followings are motivated by the approval they get from retweets, likes, and follows on social media. I would say the same is true of conservatives. A recent Pew study found that 10% of Twitter users make up 92% of the platform's engagement. So, who is this 10%? Ideologically, they amass a political leaning of D plus 43. In other words, it's a class of radicals, most of whom prefer modern segregation to freedom. The audience the progressives aim to please has created an atmosphere that demands daily evidence of systemic racism, transphobia, Trump fascism, and anti vax information. Think of the drain this must take on the movement's public faces. They are trying to constantly appease the unappeasable. I think this is a really fair point. I mean, it cannot be easy to be in that position. And I would say this regardless of whether we're talking about a commentator on the right or a commentator on the left. This is one of the reasons why I am so committed. Even if I lose audience, I don't care as much about losing audience as I do about remaining true to myself and what I believe. Because I don't want to be driven insane. And I absolutely understand how this might happen. If your commitment is higher to amassing an audience than it is to telling the truth. If you care more about amassing an audience than you do about telling the truth, then you will do anything to amass that audience. As you're on Twitter, as you're on Getter, as you're on whatever platform you happen to be on, YouTube, watching videos instead of like reading words on a screen, ask yourself if the people that you are watching are more committed to amassing an audience than they are to telling the truth. If they are more committed to amassing an audience than they are to telling the truth, then you should constantly be questioning what this person is telling me. You should constantly be questioning the validity and the accuracy of what they're telling you. Because if they are more committed to amassing an audience than they are to telling the truth, then they will say what they need to say to amass that audience. There are still people who blindly follow Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood. There are still people who blindly follow people who have, I'm sorry, just a little bit of a screw loose. Believe everything they say. Because they never thought that maybe they wanted to be famous a little bit more than they wanted to tell you the truth. Ultimately, the woke became a caricature of their own ideology because no one can be that offended, bothered, and imaginative all the time. And playing a character is a dangerous game. After so long, you become what you portray. That is very true. This is another thing I've thought about a lot because if you live in a mentality or an energy or an ideology all day, every day, you will become that thing. We all need to be careful of that. We will become the thing that we spend the most time with. We will become that thing. That's why these people struggle to transition themselves out of their poisonous mindset and enjoy their lives. It's almost impossible to do. Thus, it's no coincidence that Olbermann, 62, is not married. Who would want to live with a guy like that day after day? Sadly, the data shows that he may not be alone in being alone. About 10% of Americans claim they have zero friends in their lives. How many such Americans consider themselves woke? This exists on both sides, guys. Like, you've got to get out and experience the real world. You really do. You've got to get out and experience the real world. In the last month, I kind of took it easy in December because I was trying to recharge. I've made it a priority to put real life things ahead of online things because I was starting to lose my mind. And it's all the better for it. Make friends in the real world. I know that it's hard to make friends when you're an adult. I know it. But it's so, so, so worth it. And if you can't do it in the real world, dude, come to my local Zoom. This is why we do Zoom, so we can see each other. We can talk to each other. I consider many of my locals people my friends. As long as they're not stabbing me in the back and lying about me on the internet. It's a whole other thing. Every once in a while that happens. Not too often. All right, let's finish up this article. Race hustling is a lonely life, and the sacrifice hardly pays off. No matter how well you've saved your inherited get-out-of-jail-free cards, which include your name, picture, and preferred pronouns, the same faction that helped you grow will turn on you the moment it's advantageous to do so. Oh God, isn't this the truth? For anyone who ever has dreamed of creating content on the internet, let me assure you, not everyone, but a lot of people, if you stop saying the talking points that they want you to say, they will turn on you like that. There is very little authenticity in this game. On the right or on the left. There is very, very, very little authenticity that exists. If you are not listening to independent commentators, the chances of you finding someone that is authentically expressing a position or a truth without a commitment to the scripted talking points that have been handed down from on high is extremely slim. I might not always like Tim Pool, but Tim Pool is an independent and I believe authentic voice to what he believes. Because he doesn't have to answer to anyone. A lot of people in this game have people to answer to, even if those people are their audience. Make sure you understand the difference. Because there are a lot of people in this game who are very well aware that if they do not say exactly what their audience wants them to say, they will lose that audience. And they will turn on you the minute that I will get comments on this video saying, "You're just not the person I thought you were." Happens every single day. Because the demand for white nationalism far exceeds the supply, those on the hunt will eventually run out of external targets and turn on their own. It doesn't matter how many chips you deposit in the woke bank, Megyn Kelly, one of the few hosts with any individuality, told me, they will come for you and they will cut you. Megyn Kelly, I think, does a really good job. I do think that she's authentic to what she believes, and she's doing that. Megyn Kelly is able to be authentic to what she believes. Why? Because she's independent. She's built her own thing. She doesn't have to answer to anyone. That wasn't always the case. Let Chrissy Teigen serve as an example, or former BLM amplifier Rachel Nichols, whose fellow BLM supporters labeled a racist as they sent her away from ESPN jobless and scarred for life. Chris Cuomo relabeled his primetime program the COVID Command Center. Now his former supporters in the press are calling for the death of his career, and it is what it is. Despite Olbermann's work towards the cause, for over 2 decades, not a single MSNBC or CNN host will invite him on their programs today. His group members are watching and letting him deteriorate. Perhaps progressives will tear down the country and ensure their own ominous ending. In fact, they probably will, if others who vastly outnumber them don't start fighting back. But either way, almost none of those currently working to ravage the country will make it out unscathed and in a healthy mental state. Again, this is not a theory. There's detailed proof of how this ends. Keith Olbermann was once the gold standard of 2 media industries, sports and news. God, whom Olbermann loathed, gifted him with superb delivery and skill. Olbermann went from cheering with Dan Patrick on SportsCenter to preaching on MSNBC with the industry's top staff. Now he's left screaming into an iPhone on his balcony with no human interaction in sight. Disheartening. And it's coming for all of them. Ibram X. Kendi, Joy Reid, Don Lemon, Ilhan Omar, birthing persons, Nicole Hannah Jones, and those in their lonely Upper East Side apartments. The sad state of Keith Olbermann is how life ends for the woke. I just think it's an insightful article. Now, again, I want to emphasize that I do think that all of this applies to the right as just as much as it does the left. But let's take a look at that poll. Who is responsible? Is it the commentator or is it the audience? It looks like 67% of you believe that the commentator is responsible, and 33% say the audience. Oh, if you don't think, I'm sorry. I like Jack Posobiec. Jack Posobiec is a nice guy. If you don't think that Jack Posobiec panders to an audience, dude, but he's a very nice guy. And his wife is very nice, so beautiful. Very nice guy. Anyway, guys, that is all I have for today. Now, if you enjoyed this show, I hope you will consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to be doing this every day at 5 on Sunday, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays on my main channel. On Fridays, I'm going to go live on Actively Unwoke, which is my second YouTube channel for happy hour. We're going to do that at 5 p.m., so make sure you're subscribed to both. The link to Actively Unwoke is in the description. That's where happy hour is going to live from now on. And in about half an hour, I will be having a locals community Zoom. Here, let's get that information right up. Again, for my locals members, we'll be doing this on Mondays and Wednesdays, our open community Zooms. On Mondays, they're going to be at 7 o'clock Eastern. On Wednesdays, they're going to be at noon. You still have plenty of time to sign up. Where you sign up is if you head over to kb.locals.com/support, because you do have to be a supporter in order to access the community Zoom. It's a special perk. It comes in at $5 a month, $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. And you can also make a one-time gift that will get you access. And I'll look forward to talking to some of you in about half an hour. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll talk about some new stuff. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.